Hi, welcome to Teen Craft Tuesdays. This week we're going to talk about teen zines. I'm Kate from the Watertown Public Library in Teen Services. So if you registered for today's session and you stopped at the library to pick up your take and make supplies, in your bag you should find a small blank white notebook, some washi tape, some adhesive stickers, some adhesive letters, I think some magazine pages, and some comic book pages to give you some material to start with. And the supplies that you would need to provide would be anything you want to use to create your zine that was not included in the take and make kit. So things like markers, pens, pencils, graphics, drawings, writings, sayings, quotes, poems, anything, any ideas that you want to build your zine and the theme of it around. Glue stick and scotch tape are always handy for collaging materials together. So clipping, maybe letters out of the magazines or off things that you printed. If you do your zine in primarily black and white, some whiteout might be helpful if you make an error and you want to cover it up and redo it. And let's see, if you have a printer that will scan and print or copy and print, you can use that as well if you want to make a copy of something that you want to cut out and include in your zine. So zine is a non-mainstream publication. It's self-published. It's meant to be do-it-yourself. It doesn't resemble the polished, glossy magazine format that you see in like a mass-produced magazine publication. And it also applies to not just the form, but also the content. The content of zines are very nonconformist, and there are no rules to what goes in your zine. They tend to be shorter. They exist to share information and ideas and to be provocative, to make people think. They have a very long history. They go back to actually the Revolutionary War in the United States. Thomas Paine published the first zine or pamphlet in 1776, advocating for independence from Britain. And so he was advocating for the Revolutionary War. So it's, again, meant to be something that really is provocative and really gets people thinking about a new idea that's outside of what the mainstream is. They were also very popular in the 70s to promote punk music. Punk music was something that had a very strong fan following, but was not recognized within the recording industry for quite a while. And so fanzines were developed around punk music to promote the music and the bands that people were excited about and wanted to share information about. So if you didn't get a take and make kit from the library, or if you would like to make more than one zine, I will give you some instructions on how to make a booklet with only printer paper or 8.5 by 11 inch paper. So what you're going to do is, like you see in image 1, you're going to fold that in half lengthwise and widthwise, and then widthwise again, so that you're going to end up with 8 quadrants in those folds. And you don't want to number them the way they're numbered on the diagram because that's where your content for your zine is going to go. But what's important to note is number 1 on the diagram is going to be the front page of your zine, and number 8 is going to be the back page. So if you want to do those like lightly in pencil, smaller, so that you can kind of keep track of where they're at and how they go together, go ahead and do that. And this next step will show you, okay, once you've, sorry, I missed the part where you need to cut it. So you're gonna, once you have all those folds in, like in number 2, you're gonna fold it in half widthwise again, and you're only gonna cut from the center fold out for the first section. So you're gonna have a cut that goes between number 1 and number 6, and also between number 2, and number 5. And that's because when you have it folded in half widthwise, 1 and 2 are back to back, and 6 and 5 are back to back. So then what you're going to do is refold it lengthwise, and once you've done that, you're going to push to the center, and you'll see that the middle folds are going to want to pop open where you had cut between 1 and 6 and 2 and 5. And you'll see in the 5th diagram here, it should start to look like this. So what you're going to do is encourage those folds between page 1 or the cover and page 2, and between 5 and 6. So those are tight folds, and then you're going to wrap it around so that 1 is on the front and 8 is on the back, and that is going to give you a booklet that you can use to develop into a zine. So historically, zines touch on a variety of topics. They can be about music and art, they can be about politics, they can be about sexual identity, current events. It could be like a personal diary. It could be your personal comic book that you developed with your own characters. It often is around a fandom, so something that you really follow and are a big fan of, that you love, that you maybe do fan fiction. That could be a zine. Content can be written, drawn, printed, collaged. It can be any combination. It often looks like it's things where people have hand drawn them and cut them out of other things and taped them together and glued them together to create a new graphic or image. So these are just some examples of different ones that I found from around the web. The structure can be narrative or journalistic, especially if it's something where you're really trying to make a point about a provocative idea or concept. But they can also be informal, and they can be comic-like or completely abstract, where it's almost like an artistic notebook. So here are some resources. The first 3 links are going to give you some background information on zines and different information about who's made them, where they come from, that sort of thing. And then there's some online zines that have been posted to the web that are under the zine archive links. And those are kind of interesting to give you a sense of, you know, really kind of the variety of what's out there. But you know, you get to choose what goes in your zine. So I'm going to challenge you to go forth, build your zine, put it together. I would absolutely love to see what your finished zine looks like. I think I'm going to do mine around Doctor Who. I'm a big fan of Doctor Who, and I would love to do a zine around that. So when you're done, if you're willing to share the photos, and if you are okay with us posting them to Instagram and our Facebook pages, please email them to askrefwt@watertownpubliclibrary.org, so that we can maybe share a collection of zines that you guys came up with. I think it's going to be very interesting to see the variety. Next week for Teen Craft Tuesdays, we're going to be working on paper bead jewelry. For that, there is a take and make kit. You do need to register to pick up the kit. If you want to use your own materials at home, you will need magazine pages that you can tear out and cut into strips, similar to the long narrow triangles in the upper left corner. Magazine pages, comic book pages, junk mail pages, like the coupon clippings from the newspaper on the weekend. Any of those things will work great for that. What you want is a thin, very colorful piece of paper. The thinner it is, the easier it will be to work with. You'll also need a glue stick, a pair of scissors, and something to string those beads on, or like you could even use safety pins if you'd rather do pins rather than like a necklace or a bracelet. The kit will include a string, a needle threader, some magazine pages and comic book pages, but you will need to bring your own scissors and glue to put those together. And if you have clear nail polish and you want to paint the outside of the bead with clear nail polish. That will allow you to get to make a more durable bead. The Take and Make kit, I believe, also includes, I think, a wooden dowel and some toothpicks, so you can have different diameter bead holes to thread on different size necklaces or pins or whatever it is that you're stringing them on. So I hope to see you next week. Thanks for joining us. Please share your photos of your zines. I'd love to see them. And we'll see you next week.